Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete, and community builder. We have a person on our podcast today you're going to want to know about and want to know how you can be involved. So, Susan, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here today. I've been excited all weekend just thinking about this opportunity. So my name is Susan Wood, and I'm the Director of Operations with House of Heroes, Inc. And we serve military veterans, their spouses or widows, as well as retired public safety. That is the population we serve, and we serve by doing minor repairs to their homes at no cost.
Wow. I love how you are serving in that capacity, because there's so many things that our veterans need, and you have it very specific to serve in that way. How did you get going? Like, what was the brainstorm of starting something like this?
Well, it was started by a pastor here in Columbus, Georgia, by the name of Wayne Anthony. He pastored a very small church in South Columbus, where a lot of retired military lived. And while he was a pastor there, he noticed that a lot of his members were getting older, retired military, widows, and they just couldn't keep up with their houses anymore. It got to where that they personally couldn't afford it, or they were not able to do anything around the house any longer. 80 years old, you don't want to be climbing on ladders to paint or do anything. And you know how it is as we get older, people sometimes take advantage of us. Someone will come to your house and notice you need something done, offer to do it at a certain price, take your money and leave. And Wayne saw this opportunity for the community to come together to help our military veterans and spouses.
That's so beautiful. How did Susan start with Wayne? Did you just understand his mission and then decided to take it to another level? Like, what was that process like?
Oh, I love to tell this story. So I just happened to, I go to a church, Northside Baptist here, and the secretary said she had a friend that needed someone to fill in at House of Heroes for 1 week. I'm like, okay, I can help out, because she had to go take care of her sick mother. So I came into the office. As soon as I walked in the door, though, I saw a name tag, and it had the name Jack McCoy on it. Well, that was my dad's name and my brother's name. I thought, this is very interesting. So when Wayne came in that day, I'd already met him before to fill in that week. I said, who is Jack McCoy? And he said, oh, he's on the board of House of Heroes. He's a police officer. I said, well, that's my brother. So I felt this connection, like, I think I'm supposed to be here. So after my week was up, I kept showing up. I brought my little computer in. The director at the time was also named Susan, and she brought a little card table, and I came in every day and volunteered starting in 2006. So it's been 20 years ago, and just showed up every day. And after about 4 months, Wayne hired me.
Ooh, wow. I love that story. What's the biggest challenge when you're leading an organization, and awareness, getting the dollars, getting the volunteers? What has been that biggest challenge to running an organization like you're doing now?
Well, for me, when I started with House of Heroes, I did a little bit of everything. I did volunteer coordination. So I went out in the community to find the volunteers. I also did the financials for a while too. So I was able to see where the money was coming from and how we needed to get more. I did project management. I would coordinate the volunteers for the projects, get the team captains, select the homeowners. That was pretty easy. You know, it had its challenges, but now as we grow outside of the Columbus area, I find it hard to reach people in other cities that have never heard about us. They don't know what we are. So it's hard to get people to give or volunteer if they have never heard of you. So that's
Mm.
my biggest challenge. I think once people hear what we do, the mission speaks for itself, to honor our military veterans and public safety as well as their widows. And we do that by having teams of volunteers come out and spend one day doing
Mm.
work around the house.
Wow. That is beautiful. And, that is, I worked with a lot of different nonprofits, and I had a gentleman that came and came to our Rotary,
Mhm.
and he sat next to me and we were talking, and he did something different, but he was helping people in Vietnam. Because of Agent Orange, there's been birth defects and there's been some effects that have come many years later.
Mhm.
And as he was sharing with me, I mean, one, it was about probably 10 minutes. He just kept talking about his organization. And I said to him, I said, the biggest challenge is being simple in how you communicate your mission, because our brains are geared to so much information that it starts to block out things when it gets overwhelmed. And I see the same thing with nonprofits. We're passionate about it. We love what we're doing. However, there's so many nonprofits out there that people have to get emotionally connected to what you're doing to be able to support it. So when you're out there talking with people, what have you seen that really resonates with people that you're having a conversation with?
I think it's an opportunity to give back. So
Mhm.
many of us, we don't know what our purpose is. Everybody wants to have a purpose.
Mhm.
So when you volunteer with House of Heroes, you get to see a tangible difference in somebody's
Mm.
life. You're out there helping them. Like, we're intended on earth, to me, to be kind and help others. So
Yes.
this is your opportunity to do that. And after you help, let's say, an elderly widow, she is just so grateful and so happy that she can't believe, this is what they all say, I can't believe that someone who didn't even know me came out to help me. Because
Mm.
in today's society, if your grass is too high or your house starts looking bad, the neighbor may call the city and complain rather than crossing the fence to help out.
Mm.
So that's what I try to explain. Once you help, you'll continue to help.
Yes. That servant heart. I've had people that they've gone through difficult times in their life, and they started serving, not realizing how much that filled their heart and got them away from whatever trauma, whatever things they were going through, because they got that helping kindness in play, intentional, because we can think about it, but it's doing it.
Mhm.
What prepared you 20 years ago for what you're doing today? Did you have some experience that kind of got you ready for this?
Oh, that is a good question. You know, all my life I've been involved. Like, I teach piano, play the piano at church. I love being around kids. I was involved in all my kids' life at school, just trying to make their days better, the teacher's day better. So when I stepped into this role, it just felt like a ministry for me personally,
Hmm.
to fulfill that desire that I had to help other people. Because sometimes we just don't have that venue to go to. When you want to help somebody, where do you start? What do you do first? And this was just perfect. So I think my whole life really led up to that.
Hmm. What do you think when because I studied, I went to my 50th high school reunion, and people saying, "Hey, Pete, when are you going to retire?" And I said, "Never," because when we retire, and I lived in a senior independent living for almost 2 years. So I got to see really that stage of life. And the ones that kept the connections, had a meaningful purpose, they kept growing, not just sitting watching TV. They had that aliveness to them. How do you prepare each day for, you know, I know running an organization is challenging, but what does Susan do each day to kind of prepare for the day?
Well, I start off with my Bible study first because I
Mm-hmm.
always feel like God is in control of my life. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
lead me where I need to go. But I get so excited just coming into this office because I know that every day I have the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. And that just
Mm-hmm.
keeps me inspired. It keeps me going. And, you know, when you were talking about challenges, I thought of one that we've been facing lately.
Mm-hmm.
So we have several chapters of House of Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one in Hamden, Connecticut, which is huge. And we have one, of course, here in Columbus, Georgia, which is where the national office is located also. And we have one in Macon and Valdosta that are very small. But when I get a phone call from a veteran that lives just outside a boundary,
Mm-hmm.
let's say they live in LaGrange or Peachtree City or Noonan, that is outside the boundary of the local chapter. So I have so many veterans that feel like they're falling through the cracks. There should not be a boundary that limits that we can help them. And for me, that is my focus and my goal is to expand the reach of House of Heroes. So more volunteers, more businesses, no corporate funding, people can get involved.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that, you know, that they always say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step, and that's always the hardest, is getting things going, is planting those seeds in the community. So let's just say here in Atlanta, there's somebody getting ready. They've heard you speak, they've checked you out, and they're ready to do something. What does that process look like?
So if they would like to help me help a veteran in the
Mhm.
Atlanta area, they can just reach out to me and I'll make sure you have my phone number that we can share.
Mhm.
And they just tell me who they are, where they live. I can connect a veteran to that. I would help them coordinate the project and
Mhm.
coordinate their volunteers. There you go. Just looks like
Okay.
my internet went out for a minute.
Yeah. So coordinate the volunteers, but let's just say you're starting a new chapter.
Okay. Okay.
What does that process look like?
A little longer process. You know, first we
Mhm.
want to make sure that you've got the support that you would need to do a chapter. You're going to need to form a board. You're going to have to, we have the 501c3, you would be under our umbrella, but we still have to get your tax ID number. So there are several steps we have to start with. But we always say, you might want to start helping that first veteran, kind of get it under your belt a little bit and see what it's
Mhm.
about. Every chapter operates a little differently. We're the same. It's a proven model that works. You don't have to change anything. But
Mhm.
Connecticut will have a budget of, let's say, $5,000. And they use that budget to buy whatever material they need in case they have to pay a professional to come in to do some work that unskilled volunteers can't do. Where
Mhm.
here locally, our budget might be $2,500 to buy all the material we need for that one day.
So when you look at a veteran that reaches out, each project is a separate entity. So you look at what needs to be done, what needs to be funded. How do you look at like your yearly process? Like you don't know how many requests are going to come in. Do you have like a yearly budget that you're working towards, and then when people needs come up, you're able to address them? How does that work?
Well, national's a little different than the local chapters. They do have a yearly budget and they will have a goal maybe to help 30 to 50 veterans, depending on how much money they've raised for that year.
Mhm.
For national, I try to raise enough that so we do have a yearly budget. Some of it's set aside in case I need to travel up there to help somebody get started with a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Also, money set aside to do a project. So for a year, for House of Heroes National, we like to help 3 or 4 veterans during the year in different cities just to plant that seed where someone would like to start a chapter.
What have you seen the most need out there? Is it when it comes to the home and the veterans, is it a certain thing that keeps coming up, that whether it's roof, siding, sidewalks, they're pretty, consistent with this has been a challenge for us and it comes up more often than most?
Every year is different. This is one thing I have noticed. Every year is different. When I was with the local chapter, I always kept this whiteboard, and I would have how many houses we did, like a little diagram. And it was just like throughout the year. Some years we did no houses in January. Sometimes we were able to do 10. You just never could plan exactly how it was going to roll out because it depended on money. It depended on volunteers and the skill. But right now, it seems like the major need has been handicapped bathrooms, some wheelchair ramps, and roofs. Well, those are big ticket items.
Yes.
That's not something that I could get 10 volunteers that had no idea what they were doing. That requires a skill, and it requires the funding to pay a contractor to do the work, someone that has got the license to do that, not just volunteers. Volunteers are more like painting your house, replacing rotten fascia, making your yard cleaner, cleaning out for you, replacing rotten deck boards, little pieces of tile. Those are easier to get skilled volunteers to do.
I met your son when we were at the Rotary event, and it's always really cool that our young people are our technology people. They kind of help us. We didn't grow up with it. It's hit us pretty hard, and it's hit us fast. How do you keep up with the fast pace of technology?
Man, that's a great question. I get help with it is what I do. I try to read and figure it out on my own, but if it gets too tough, I have some volunteers I'll call in and say, hey, can you help me figure this out? Because like you said, the younger crowd, it's just a piece of cake for them, a few keystrokes and they've got it done.
What are you doing with AI? It comes up in every conversation, and I a lot of times I'll ask people on the podcast how they're using it in their business, and I'm very surprised how many aren't really leveraging it like it's possible. How are you guys using AI with House of Heroes?
I use it in some Facebook posts. I'll put in AI what I want to say, and it adds better words for me, And
have you used it? Okay, go ahead.
And then also with thank you letters, or if I'm writing a proposal or a grant, I will give AI the parameters of what I would like to say. And it can help me even create a budget that I'm looking for. And then I can go in and tweak it. Because it's not always going to be right.
Yes.
I know my budgets.
Totally. Yeah, it is. I was at a Rotary. We do a yearly community event that we host every year, and there's a lot of vendors there, a lot of people there. So it seems like companies are leaning into being more involved in the community. Do you find that, say, construction companies or companies that are involved in it on a regular basis want to put a portion of their time into, like the journey you're on, is making sure that the resources are there to be able to feed not literally feed, but be able to support and help our veterans in need of repairs, more complicated repairs, because these are experts. Is that something that you've been able to pursue and have those partnerships with?
We have a few partnerships. That's been a challenge, you know.
Okay.
We have some contractors, construction companies that have provided help, like for one veteran, some
Mm-hmm.
things that we couldn't do. You tell them the veteran's story, they go out and look at the house, and then they decide, I'm going to spend 3 days. They gut the kitchen, gut the bathroom, give them handicap accessible bathroom. And it's great when they do that, but it doesn't happen every year.
Okay. How do those relationships work with you? That one that's worked for you, what was that like to be able to connect with those companies? Because I do see that, like you said at the beginning, is when you are giving back, when you're doing acts of kindness, when you're doing more for your community, it just one feeds your heart, but it also makes the community better. How did you make those connections with the ones that you've been able to be successful with?
Some people I know, and they
Mm,
know people.
okay.
It's always that little chain of friends that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to do something I called a team captain luncheon.
Mm-hmm.
And I would invite prior team captains, and I would say, hey, if you know anybody that you think might want to participate and be a volunteer group for House of Heroes, invite them to this luncheon. And I would take, so we go out and we vet the veterans, we have their application, we go out and take pictures of their house, do like a little preview of what they
Mm-hmm.
need. And I would place them around on the tables. I
Mm,
knew most of my volunteer skills. So I
mm,
knew which one would be the perfect team for Wells Fargo. I know which one was good for Brassfield and Gorey. I would
mm.
give them the harder ones. The easier ones, I know where to put those. But every now and then, a contractor would show up because he was invited by another team captain.
Yeah.
And that's where I got this one group, Houston Homes. And they took the hardest house we had.
Mm-hmm.
And all I do is just, continually each year say, hey, we've got another veteran that really needs your help. Can you help them? And,
Ooh.
most of the time they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes their schedules are just too busy. So you have to catch them where they're not at a busy season.
Mm-hmm. How does Susan keep track of all these relationships? Because it seems like there's a lot of moving parts. Do you have anything that's been able to be helpful for you to really do what you just described to us?
Of course, I have spreadsheets, that
Mhm.
might have the veterans that we've worked on before, the teams that worked on the veterans. But I've always been the person that gets to know my teams, know my team captains. I'm
Mhm.
out there when they're working to thank them for coming out there, to see the
Mm.
kind of skills they have. And some of it's just my memory, some of
Mhm.
them just make an impression on me, whether it's good or bad. And I just remember them and I make notes and I have them in my phone.
Yeah, that's so good. What do you think when it comes to, we met at a Rotary event. How did that relationship happen?
With Rotary, well, I'm a Rotarian, and my
Okay.
Rotary Club has done many houses in Columbus, Georgia, because they do at least one a year, and they've been partnering with House of Heroes for probably 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me the opportunity to speak to other Rotary clubs. And then when I told them what we do, they want to get involved. They want to help out. Rotary service above self. I mean, this
Yes.
is a perfect opportunity for you to come out and help.
We only had a brief conversation at that conference, and I probably should have asked that, but I didn't know. And
That's
so,
okay.
sometimes, you want to be, yes, you're exactly service above self. How long have you been a Rotarian?
Since 2017.
Wow.
So, yeah, 9 years. Mhm.
When I went home, I had a couple Rotaries up in Richmond, and I went to the one. Then I found one that I really liked, and it was close to where my sister was. So I would stay there and go over to the Rotary. But I did see another Rotary in town that was kind of a reminder of what Rotary was like 25 years ago.
Mhm.
So what have you seen? When somebody says, Susan, what is Rotary? I've never heard of it. What do you share with them that helps them understand what you just described to us?
First, I tell them it's a civic organization,
Mm-hmm.
the largest one in the world. And it's your chance to get to connect with other people like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that join, they join for the connection.
Mm-hmm.
Some join for the service opportunities because they want to serve other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our socials too. So it's a time to get together and get to know each other. I love Rotary.
Mm-hmm.
I try to encourage people to be part of that particular team because it is an entity in your community that you
Yes.
can serve through.
What do you think? That is beautiful. I love that, because I want, and I always kind of like, just in conversation, whether I'm go out in the community, I like to meet people in the community. And sometimes I'll just, have, like, I went around for our largest event, which was Smoke on the Lake, just to meet business owners and make them aware of that, what's happening in the community. Because like yourself, we don't broadcast, what we do in the community involvement, the impact that we make. We just go out there and do it. It's kind of like we don't need our name on the building. We just want to go out and build the building. And so you're just going out there and serving. What has been your when you're looking at House of Heroes and you're looking at what are you most excited about in the next few years?
It's got to be just helping more veterans, expanding into other communities. Right now, I'm working with some people in Enterprise, Alabama, someone in Houston, Texas that's interested in starting a chapter. And that itself is motivating because there's so many veterans out there that need help. And there's plenty of us to help. They just have to know about us.
Yes, so true. How do you handle all the noise and distraction that is out there? It's almost like we're in the TikTok era of short attention span.
Right.
How does Susan stay focused?
I've just always been able to. I'm not an ADHD person. I'm a focused person. I've never had a problem with that, but I know with all the outside noise and other things going on, this is just my purpose. So it's easy for me to stay focused, Also, just like I said, knowing that every day presents another opportunity to serve someone.
That's beautiful. They say meaningful purpose is that driver, that North Star. So before you started with House of Heroes, did you have that purpose, or was it something that was developed more when you started on that journey of building and working with House of Heroes?
It was developed more when I started working with House of Heroes. I just found my place,
Yes.
Growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. I just love little kids. I want to help them, I love being around. My mother was in a nursing home. I had the best time going there, playing the piano, getting my son to sing. You could just provide something that made people happy.
Yeah.
And so when I found House of Heroes, my dad was a World War II veteran, but that was way back. And he didn't really talk about that. He was in the Navy, but I still saw the need that was there. And it's like, this is the way I can actually do something.
Yes. That, I love that, because I went to a military high school. So I was around it, but I was in between conflicts. And so it wasn't the ones that went on to have a career in the military. They went to VMI, they went to the Citadel, they went to the Naval Academy, and they pursued it from there. My nephew went on an ROTC scholarship for the Air Force at Virginia Tech. What do you think when it comes to our veterans today? We're definitely more serving than we were years ago. What do you see like when it comes to the challenges that our veterans are facing when they come back into work in our community? What do you think? Because they get great training, but we don't always see that training in the private sector. Have you seen anything, or are you dealing more with people that are a little bit older that need things to help them in their stage of life?
Yeah, we deal more with the older that are
Okay.
just needing that help. Not to say we don't get applications from veterans that have served, 20 something years, and they're, 48
Mm-hmm.
and they are transitioning, but they could be injured. They may not be able to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of struggles that everyone faces,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't really know what they are. So you try to be compassionate with everybody and see how you can help anyone that may need help.
I want to be respectful of your time, Susan. So I have a question after this. Tell our viewers, they want to be involved, they want to volunteer, they're a veteran out there that needs help. How would they get a hold of Susan and your organization?
I'll give you the phone number first,
Okay.
706-562-1032. You can also go to our website, houseofheroesnational.org. You may have to type in www.houseofheroesnational.org. There's a contact button. Just send me your name. Tell me you're interested in learning about more information. You can always find me at susanw.hohinc2000@gmail.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good.
That's a little longer, so just
No, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
So for our audio listeners out there,
Yeah.
you can always look in the show notes, and we'll make sure. We'll also have you be involved in our community school, which we can make better connections for you, because it's a national, or actually international, way that we can help support you. When I know some people need to meet Susan, I can make sure that they make that connection with you. What would be the one thing, Susan, you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
That there is a bigger need than they realize in the United States, in their own community. In their own community, they really, because I didn't know how many veterans needed help, how many people needed help, how many retired public safety officers, widows. And if they contact me, I'll happily tell them some people that they can reach out to help. And I think the need is so much greater than anyone is aware of.
Yes.
And it's not just in one community. A lot of people say, oh, it's in this part of Columbus or this part. No, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. People are struggling and need help.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for taking the time to share with our community your journey. And we want to thank you for the impact that you're making out there and being intentional about supporting our veterans at this stage of their life. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you, Pete. I enjoyed it so much.